Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. For the final time, at least in the main series, there will be bonus episodes. We are in Ganon's Tower and heading up to fight the great King of Evil himself. And proof, were it needed, that the organ is the most sinister of instruments. We can hear Ganon's organ playing in the background, and the higher up the tower you get, the louder it gets. So, if you didn't do the Gerudo training grounds, this is the first time you come across Dinalfos. Like almost enemy in the game, they are incredibly easy to just mince through using Bigorun's sword. The door we entered in is that way, and the one up is that way. You'll notice to the left and right there are kind of gates you can't get through. It's worth remembering them for a little later on. The higher up you get, the louder the organ music gets, and the more parts are added to it, so it gets a little bit more complicated, which I think is pretty cool. This is very much like Ganon's Castle stairs from Wind Waker, and from Twilight Princess as well. It's pretty much a staple of the Zelda game, is the Ganon's Tower thing. It usually has what's playing in the background here, which is Ganon's theme itself. I have often said this, just never on YouTube, I think. I don't know how familiar my viewers are with the British composer Gustav Holst. Yes, he wasn't actually British, doesn't sound it. He's very much of German ancestry, but Gustav Holst. He's most famous for the planet suites. So it has, like, Jupiter, Mercury, Mars, whatnot, are all in the planet suite. And I've often said that, two Dark Knuckles here. Well, I mean, yes, there's an Iron Knuckle and there is a Dark Iron Knuckle on the left, which are both faster and more powerful. But we can, basically, you only wake up Iron Knuckles when you hit them, so you can technically just stab one of them or like shoot them with an arrow and just take them on one at a time. With the Biggoron sword, it's really not a problem actually taking on both at the same time. But yes, so Holst's Planet Suite is, in a lot of ways, the inspiration for a shit ton of like orchestral music today, be that film music or game music or something like that. You can spot a lot of it in, like, most people recognize Jupiter and Mars. Like, so much of the Star Wars soundtrack was inspired by Holst's Mars from that suite. Jupiter's very famous. If anyone is interested in game music and Zelda music, in particular in this track that's going, look up Saturn by Holst and listen to that. There's a section of it which is absolutely where this track came from, which sounds like this dum bom ba-dum bom ba-dum bom ba-dum, and it's a really cool thing. It's like that's in no way plagiarism. It's just music based on one another. Like Holst was just so instrumental in was so instrumental in creating music that, I mean, he's up there with Wagner for be one of the first people to come up with music that really was tied to ideas so strongly, as in, like, so Wagner did opera in a way of, like, his big thing was Das Leitmotiv, he called it. The idea that certain themes of music would be associated, I'm trying to get some magic from here, that certain themes of music would be associated with certain characters in the opera. We consider that a fairly standard thing in films nowadays. Look at, say, Lord of the Rings or something like that, which has that so clearly. It's probably the best example of that. But that was never really done until Wagner. And equally, Holst's music is very visual in a sense. The Planet Suite is probably the best example of it. And yeah, you can, like, from like Hans Zimmer to John Williams to Koji Kondo, who did this music, you can find Holst's inspiration in music almost anywhere. But yes, listen to Saturn, and there's a part that absolutely sounds like Ganondorf's organ from this bit here. Why do I call it Ganondorf's organ? Because, well, you'll see. My Triforce parts are resonating. They are combining into one again. The two Triforce parts that I could not capture on that day 7 years ago. I didn't expect they'd be hidden in you two. And now, finally, all the Triforce parts are gathered here. These toys are too much for you. I command you to return them to me!
Doctor, I can't help you. Because of the waves of darkness, I can't get close. I'm sorry, Doctor.
Great King of Evil, Ganondorf. Time for our showdown with the man himself. So, get the fuck to a corner of the arena, because he is about to break all of it. And now we play, this is actually where the name first came from, the old deadly tennis game of tennis. Yeah, this came from, I had a, for those who haven't heard the story, if you've watched any of this series so far, you'll know it, but I had a strategy guide for this game, and for this boss fight specifically it said, and now you must face the great King of Evil himself in a deadly tennis game of tennis. And the deadly tennis game of tennis has permeated Zelda ever since. Do it with him in... enough here, I'm cocking it up repeatedly. Bigoron Sword is actually pretty handy here because its horizontal sweep has got a longer range out from Link than the Master Sword. So that actually means you've got more of a chance to hit it back here. And I'm really worried that something's happening here. You may have already noticed what it is. Let's find out. There we go. Hit him with a light arrow at this point. Oh, there we go. Oh dear me. Right, now here's your chance to lay into him with Bigoron Sword. Couple of jump attacks, do as much damage as you can. And then get the fuck out of the way and back to the corners, because he will make even more of the floor disappear. Or not. Oh, he's doing this, right. Charge up a spin attack at this point, because he's going to send a load of different particles at you. Oh my god. Really? In the final episode, you've lasted this long? Oh, if you let the spin attack off properly, they'll all go back and hit him at the right time. But that didn't work. Yes, it seems my technological solution to the fact that it's really hard to capture off a 3DS has made it the entire game until literally the final boss when it starts to become a problem. That's really fucking annoying. Right, let's time this. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, there we go. The aforementioned technical issues obviously make that even harder to time, but there we go. Oh, it's just, I guess, the particle effects that are just really harming it. I will talk about what I mean, really, in a second there. The great evil King Ganondorf, beaten by this kid. Doctor. Ganondorf, pitiful man. Without a strong, righteous mind, he could not control the power of the gods, and... Doctor, listen to me. This tower will collapse soon. With this last breath, Ganondorf is trying to crush us in the ruins of the tower. We need to hurry and escape. Please follow me. So, indeed, it's time to escape the castle, and we have to basically follow Zelda. If you get too far away from her, she'll just wait, and you have to come up and basically physically touch her. And as you can see, we've got a timer at the bottom. So yes, I suppose that last fight has really tipped my hand. Oh, these gates, by the way, she opens them. I told you to remember earlier various parts inside the castle. Those gates connect to various parts on the way down, and so we kind of weave in and out of the castle. If you get hit, she'll be stunned for a moment, because you go, ah! At you being hit. It's really annoying. But yes, I suppose that, that last boss fight has really tipped my hand as to the fact that I am playing this on an emulator. I'm playing this on the Citra emulator and have been the entire time. I'm genuinely actually curious as to how many people realise, because I think other than literally that final boss fight, other than a couple of transitions, which have taken a bit more time than I expected and kind of stuttered perhaps a little bit. The audio's done that occasionally. It's been bloody seamless playing on it. And do let me know in the comments. I'm actually curious how many people noticed that. So it's worth knowing. So capturing from a 3DS is a fucking nightmare. Because a 3DS, because its screen is inbuilt, does not output a signal that you could intercept like a home console that just outputs a HDMI or a YPDPR signal does. And so you either need a capture board which plugs into the top of it, which are really hard to get hold of nowadays, or you need to have your 3DS modified. So you send it away and they install essentially a capture board into it and a USB port on the side to facilitate capture. I don't know of anyone in Europe, let alone the UK, who does those. The only ones I know of are in America and Japan, which is not a very practical solution. Thank you, Doctor. Now let's hurry. And it's an annoying thing because it's like, it would feel stupid to do the N64 version of this game when the 3DS one is out, and I didn't want to just be limited by capture. So I was like, fuck it, I'll take the old Citra emulator for a spin, and it's been a thoroughly good experience, I think. So a couple of people had noticed it in the comments earlier, they're like, this game looks really nice, it's a good looking remake, and I had to comment saying, this isn't strictly been playing it on 3DS. I didn't want to advertise it early on, I just wanted to see actually whether people did notice it or not. Ow, bugger me. I've also been quite good to generally edit out the clicking when I've been clicking on the touchscreen, because of course I'm playing this with fucking Xbox controllers, so to click on the touchy buttons I have to take a hand off that and find my bloody mouse. Turns out there's an option in Shadowplay to hide the mouse cursor as well, which is quite nice. But yes, I don't have a particularly high-spec computer. It was high-spec when I built it 7 years ago, and it hasn't been upgraded much since then, so I've still got an old AMD FX 8350 processor, and my graphics card is a GTX 770, so it's not exactly modern. It's not terrible, it's not modern. And here, so, oh, bloody re-dead. So it's scaling up the textures here to, I think it's 3 times from the 3DS's resolution to 1920 by 1080. So it is scaling them up a bit, but not hugely. And it seems to be generally, yeah, it's done fine, it's performed fine. Even though, yeah, my processor being an 8-core processor is not ideal for this, because this can only use 1 core, so multiple small cores not exactly handy for it. Anyway, enough about me ranting about tech and, what's it called, emulators. We're out and free. It's over. It's finally over.
Doctor, I'm so sorry I couldn't help you in the battle before.
Oh dear. Spooky noises coming from the remnants of the castle. Ganon. That's all you get, rather than giant demon pig Ganon.
There's no way he's gonna hold me back this time. This time we fight together.
So for some bizarre reason, it's pushed me back to the mirror shield. So I'll switch to the Highland shield, why not? And so, you've not got the Master Sword, you've got two options here. I'm going to use Biggoron Sword. The other option is, unsurprisingly, not necessarily unsurprisingly, the Megaton Hammer is the other option that can deal a decent amount of damage to him. What we need to do is target his weak spot there. Navi says she'll be here to help us this time, but if you target him, all she says is, I really have no idea what his weak point is. Fucking thanks, glad you're around for the ride. So yeah, you need to basically sidestep around him there, and his tail, his obvious fucking white glowing tail, how did you not see this coming, Navi? That is his weak spot. So this is the true final boss of the game, Ganon, and he's the classic, like, this is the thing, like, throughout Zelda games, you always have, like, Ganondorf, the man, the kind of the Gerudo King of Thieves, and then you have Ganon, the giant demon king, and it's cool to see this done, as ever. He's always got a vaguely, like, piggish look to him. Let's get him there. Oh dear, that camera went interesting there. And this is quite interesting for making you, potentially, especially if you're, like, the Megaton Hammer is an interesting way of doing this. For now, I'm just dodging around him and trying to use the gaps in his attack. See, even with our fucking double damage boost here, he can output a significant amount of damage, can Ganon. But you have an advantage of him I've not shown yet. Light arrows! Oh, boy, that didn't work well. Let's try that again. Light arrows! Hit him with them, you will stun him. You can actually stun him with a number of things. You can stun him with Deku Nuts, even, but only for, like, not even barely long enough to circle behind him. Din's Fire works remarkably well, but it's actually, I find, better to use... Oh, you bugger. There we go. I find it better to use light arrows, because they just fire up more easily. Din's Fire, you've got to do the whole animation every time. But as I showed in the first part of the battle... Oh, he got me on the back swipe there? That doesn't seem fair. We're running low, I know, but we've got like 3 fairies, so we'll be fine. There we go. Doctor, the Master Sword is here! Hurry up! So, you've got him, like, stunned by, like, now, so run over, indeed, to where the fuck? There we go, Zelda. I accidentally L-targeted his tail and got really disorientated. So, pick up the Master Sword and return to the fight. Oh, don't tell me that. You could switch back to the Biggoron Sword at this point. You can continue to do Ganon damage with any weapon you want, including Biggoron Sword, quite easily. You cannot defeat him using Biggoron Sword. I'm going to die in a second, but... I know, I'm going to get killed in a second, but I've got a fairy. Yeah, you can do as much damage to him as you want. You cannot defeat him with Biggoron Sword. You can... Fairy, please? Thank you very much. You can reduce him to essentially 1 health with Biggoron Sword. And I don't know where the point is, so it's not worth doing. But the ending blow, at least, has to be struck with the Master Sword. It is the blade of... God, so that must do 4 hearts to you normally, his hit, because they're doing 2 to me, and I've got superpowers. So that's insane. But yes, it is the blade of Evil's Bane, the sword that seals the darkness, whatever the fuck else you call it. You can only seal Ganon once and for all using the Master Sword. Therefore, I don't really want to fanny around with like using Biggoron Sword for a bit and then trying to work out at what point it feels like I've done enough damage and switching back to the Master Sword. As you see, you can almost stun lock him at this point if you know when to fire the arrows, which I don't particularly well. I'm running semi-low on magic, which is why I got that magic potion. There we go, there's your moment. I'm using my power to hold the evil king! You use your sword and deliver the final blow! Let's end it once and for all. Wallop! Six sages, now! Ancient creators of Hyrule. Now open the sealed door and send the evil incarnation of darkness into the void of the evil realm. You! Curse you, Zelda! Curse you, sages! Curse you, Doctor! Someday when this seal is broken, that is when I will exterminate your descendants! As long as the Triforce of Power is in my hand. Thank you, Doctor. Thanks to you, Ganondorf has been sealed inside the evil realm. Thus, peace will once again reign in this world, for a time. All the tragedy that has befallen Hyrule was my doing. I was so young, I couldn't comprehend the consequences of trying to control the sacred realm. I dragged you into it too. Now it's time for me to make up for my mistakes. You must lay the Master Sword to rest and close the door of time. However, by doing this, the road between times will be closed. Doctor, give the Ocarina to me. As a sage, I can return you to original time with it. Peace has returned to Hyrule. It is time for us to say goodbye. Now go home, Doctor. Regain your lost time. Home, where you are supposed to be. The way you are supposed to be. Really annoys me that she doesn't play the Song of Time. Not only would that make sense in terms of, time, it's also just a much better song. I really don't like Zelda's Lullaby hugely, but I'll save my moaning for the credits. Thank you, Doctor. Goodbye. And now, here we are on the credits, so time to kind of reflect. It does a fly-through of pretty much everywhere we've ever been, in a strange order, starting with Gerudo's Fortress. But yes, Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is an amazing game. It's... Even without the context of it being like Nintendo's one of their first major 3D games ever, and the transferring of a kind of huge series from 2D to 3D, it still, I think, holds up really well, especially the 3D remake. I think one of the things that, I'll talk about what it does really well. It has a lot of really memorable characters, even just random things like the carpenters, the guy who teaches you the Song of Storms, the bloke who's running through Hyrule Field, the Ghost Shop Man. There's a lot of just really unique, standout NPC characters who just really do make it feel like a very fleshed out world in some ways. Not in other ways, but I'll get to that in a second. The dungeons and areas, I think, works really well. They feel really different. Look here, we're in Goron City. If you think of the Fire Temple, Forest Temple, if you think of the adult temples, then think of Zora's Domain, the Kokiri Forest, Death Mountain. They've all got they feel really unique and really separate, as do the dungeons and the kind of the gameplay that goes with them, and I think it works really well for that. One thing I will say against it is, to say it's called Ocarina of Time, I feel like it doesn't use the time mechanic as much as it could. The two time zones don't interfere with each other much. Yes, okay, so you do, the Shadow Temple and the Spirit Temple have kind of sections where you go back in time and then you go forward in time, but those sections don't actually interact. You just get an item from back in time and then you have it when you come in. You don't, change anything between times. Think Dark and Light Ether in Metroid Prime 2 for, how those two separate zones could interact, but they don't. But I'm reluctant to be too shitty on it for that, because the idea of how to use time travel is actually really what Majora's Mask does so fantastically well, of Ocarina really sets the stage for Majora's Mask to become a thing, and a lot of people don't necessarily hugely like Majora's Mask, and I will admit it's not as easily accessible as Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is just a 3Difying of the standard Zelda gameplay. Majora's Mask is weird and different, and that's what I kind of love about it. Ocarina of Time is a great game, and it's great fun. Majora's Mask is a beautiful game. It's, for me, it's a different thing, and it's apples and oranges to some extent when it comes to actually comparing them. Majora is just such a different experience, and better for me, but not necessarily better for anyone, but no one would deny they are different. But I feel like it could have been, for want of a better phrase, in terms of the time travel stuff, I feel like the future could be more fucked up. Because I love that feeling, oh, I think something's about to happen. Oh no, we're just going to do a different thing rather than look around things. It's time for everyone's celebration. I feel like the future could be more fucked up, because that moment when you come out of the Temple of Time, you're like, oh, we lost. Hyrule Castle Town's been destroyed, Ganon's Castle is replaced, Hyrule Castle, you're like, oh shit, dancing Gorons. Like, that could be really powerful, but it's not that powerful because it only really extends to Hyrule Castle. The rest of the world is alright. You've got a few things going on, like the Kokiri Forest is fucked up, Zora's Domain's frozen, and that's not fixed. But I feel like there could be more stuff that, as you make progress in the adult timeline, stuff that's more fucked up that very clearly gets fixed. And I guess I'm always just mad that Ocarina of Time, Zora's Domain never unfreezes. But I think the plot generally works really well. It's very good, but it's odd to me that it does come in bursts, very much like you get a chunk when you start the game, you get a chunk when you get like 3 dungeons in, then you get a chunk at the end, and that's kind of it. I think I also really like the way it handles like Zelda and Sheik. I think that dichotomy is really cool, because I think when you realise that Sheik was Zelda the whole time, it's like looking back you hit bigger on. I think it makes Zelda quite a powerful character. Oh, this is speaking powerful. I really like this shot, because pieces respond to Hyrule, and people are happy, but Mido has lost Saria, the Zora king has lost his daughter, because they've got to spend their life being sages now and protecting the world against evil. So it's victory, but it's got a tinge of sadness to it. And that moment where they're both just sitting there alone, a bit away from the party, I think is really powerful. I'm just saying it's not so much a cost, but it's kind of just, this is the sacrifice you have to make. Stuff's changing again here, but yeah, so like it's nice that Zelda's not a completely passive character in this. Like, you see her as a child, and you don't see her again for ages, but then when you put it together that she is Sheik, you're like, oh, she was doing stuff the whole time. Like, she was fucking fighting Bongo Bongo. She was like really supporting the Doctor and doing her own stuff. And I think it makes Zelda quite an active character in a way that she isn't really in a lot of other Zelda games. I would say, yeah. Compared to other Zelda games, like later ones on, it's a bit under-fleshed out. Like, it goes very quickly from dungeon to dungeon with not much content in between, but it was their first 3D one, their first, like, main Zelda game, so you can understand that hugely. Anyway, time for a bit of an interlude in my thoughts. Once again, the emulator struggles on literally the final shot of the game. I guess that sepia effect is just real hard on the old GPU. I do quite like that moment though, because it's the Inception moment. The camera cuts to black just before... Does Zelda recognize Link? Or has that gone as well? We'll never know. But yeah, I'd say this game has reaffirmed my stuff as ever, that Zelda games make really good Let's Plays. Like, the way that the games are structured, gameplay-wise, and work, you've got a lot of different stuff going on. They never get too repetitive. You've got plot, you've got gameplay. They're all quite innovative. They make really good Let's Plays. And I think, as a whole, Ocarina holds up as a fantastic game. I can see, and hopefully you can as well, why it's held as such a classic. And especially when you consider its context, that it was the first major 3D game that, other than Mario 64, that Nintendo did, and bloody hell did it work really well. And I think its music in particular still holds up so well. It's very, very good in my opinion. But you may have noticed my Let's Plays, I like game music. And I think the remake is exactly what you want in a remake as well, that it looks better. Like, if you compare it to how the N64 one looks, it just looks updated and really nice. I haven't used the 3D yet, that's coming for the bonus episode, don't worry. But yeah, it's fixed various little glitches, it made the water temples smoother, like, the game just runs better, it's more of an enjoyable experience, I think, than the original, and so in that sense, it's an ideal remake. So I guess the real question is, what comes next? The answer is 3 things. As ever, there will be an inter-project project. But that inter-project project will not be done for a change by me. The sprite of the infamous gentleman is taking her time, her chance at doing a solo project. I've been trying to encourage the other gentleman for fucking years to do their own solo stuff. No one's wanted to try it until now, but the sprite has done. She tells me she's recorded it. The Lion King for the SNES, which is an awful game. No, it's a great game. I suck at it. Because I didn't grow up with it, and it's bloody hard. But she has done that, and that will be airing in this series of slots. So please do go and watch that. I actually haven't seen it yet, so I can't tell you it's amazing, but I'm sure it will be entertaining, if only because watching this sprite struggle at a really hard game is always fun. So do go and watch that in the intervening time. Following that, we will have 2 bonus episodes, technically. There'll be 1 bonus episode, which I will talk about visualizer design. Someone asked me about that when I did the Let's Edit for, what's it called, for Metroid Prime. They said, how do you design visualizers? So I kind of recorded that when I was designing the visualizer for this. There'll be that. And then there'll be a bonus episode going through all the content I haven't shown yet in the game. If anyone has stuff they want me to talk about in there, drop me a comment. I have a list already, but I can add more stuff into that. Including... Come now. That's a real long black screen there. There we go. We have now unlocked, if you look at the bottom screen, Master Quest. So this has an orange screen, and we have no save files in it. I'll be talking about Master Quest in the bonus episode. I'll also be talking about various little bits of the game we haven't actually seen yet. They're usually like side content that doesn't actually lead to anything, it's just a little gimmick in the game. But if anyone has got anything they're particularly attached to that they think I haven't talked about yet, drop me a comment and I will make sure. The bonus episode will also be, for fair parts of it, in 3D, so go onto Amazon and buy some shitty red-blue 3D glasses if you want to experience the episode in all its awful, terrible glory. Then what comes next following that? Well, then it's time for my next project. I've teased it already with 2 bits of music throughout this, don't know who will have got it or not, but you know, there we go. It's a very different game to anything I've done before. Like, I don't even know how best to sum up its genre, but I've not done anything like it on the channel before. If you like time management, if you like strategy and planning, and if you like ant colonies, maybe the game for you. My next Let's Play, time for the trailer. Hope you'll join me then. Thank you very much, and good day.